Now I love this old dead tree. There's something about it, I don't quite put my finger on it. It's got lots of character, obviously. And this is the elusive tree that I've tried to find several times on several visits to this woods. A tree that we found, me and Sam Bowes found in a vlog. It's not actually in the vlog, but I'll put the link to the video here. We found this tree on the way back to the van. There's lots of new growth at the moment. Flowers and the ferns are really good. And this particular foreground is full of new ferns, but I don't know what type of fern they are, but I'm not really sure this shot works. I had an image of something like this, new growth with a dead tree, and sort of new and the old. Tells the story of the forest, but there's a lack of atmosphere. This is about an hour and a half from sunset, so my original idea for this image I had, like I said, with the new and the old, but with mist or sort of fog or that sort of eerie morning sort of atmosphere that you get in the Vale. See, I'm not entirely sure this is going to work today. I'm going to have to keep looking. Could one for the future. So I decided it's worth a shot, but it's a very tricky shot to take. There's a bit of breeze. There's a bit of breeze, which is obviously moving the scene. The ferns, the trees in the background. I don't really want to crank my ISO up with this camera. Does not perform well with higher ISOs, even at like ISO 400. For landscapes, no, it's not for me. So I'm around ISO 100. I'm leaving it sort of until there's a bit of a lull in the breeze, around 1.16 of a second. F11 focused about a third of the way in, and I think I have played around with f-stop. I've taken a shot at f16. Obviously that's given me a slower shutter speed, and like I said, unless I crank my ISO up, which I don't really want to do, f16 is obviously giving me better depth of field. Focusing a third of the way in f16 has given me front to back sharpness, but because there's movement in the scene, it's kind of tricking the eye into thinking that it's not sharp, because obviously there's a little bit of movement. So what I've decided to do is shoot at f11, 1.16 of a second, ISO 100 in f11, so I don't know if I've already just said that. And that's given me the depth of field I think I'm happy with. I'm getting a little bit of softness in the far distance, like on the tree, but then I ain't worried about that because there's quite a big opening in the canopy here. It's quite hazy, there's a bit of atmosphere down there, and it's quite light. So it's almost creating a little bit of that mystical sort of effect. And it's basically what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to use the conditions I've got, which are not great for this particular shot. But this is an exercise of the photography brain, knowing your camera, knowing your settings, knowing what you can get away with that lens. I'm using the 11-16 Nikon So I'm going quite wide at 16, and that's very important. It's knowing your camera, knowing the settings, knowing that exposure triangle, so you know which one you can push and pull, and what happens when you push and pull, what happens to the other side. Say if I slow my shutter speed down, that's going to allow movement in the scene. Do I want to crank my ISO up to compensate from that, or do I not? Do I open my aperture up, or do I close it? So this is a real test of the exposure triangle and my knowledge as a photographer, and knowing my knowledge of my camera. So yeah, I'm fairly happy with the shot on the back of the camera. It's just a test shot, really. Like I said, it's just an exercise of the mind, and testing that creativity, because let's be honest, we haven't really been testing our creativity recently, have we, out in the field? So it's just nice to get out and see if I've still got it. So what I thought I'd do now is just show you exactly what I'm thinking about in my mind compositionally, and why I think this particular shot works, and why I think this particular composition will work in other situations, other lighting conditions, other weather conditions, like we've already mentioned, mist and fog. I think it might even work with a bit more direct sunlight. We'll see, but maybe it has to be sort of calm because these ferns are moving. But anyway, yeah, let's jump into the big Nikon, and I'll just show you exactly what I'm thinking. So, as you can see, we have these ferns either side in the main immediate foreground, and we have I've got a little bit of flat grass, and that just adds layers to the image. If I'd have just plonked my camera right amongst this here, one, I would have had to have focus stacked, because you've got something so close to the lens, and we've got this tree in the background. Even f16, if you've got something within a metre of your lens, or even further, like a metre and a half, you're going to have to focus stack. So that's why I've included this. I've come back a little bit. I'm shooting at 16mm, which is around 24 on a full frame. So wide, but not ultra wide. And I'm just using this little path, which you can sort of see it veers and disappears into the distance. And even down here, you can just see like a little dark line where that path eventually ends up at this tree. And obviously, this tree is the focal point, but because you've got these nice ferns and you've got this layer of grass, the path leading you up, and you've got this light coming through from the top, sort of the middle of the image, but up at the top, just shining down on the tree. It is a focal point, but because you've got a lot going on here, and I think it works, you can afford it to be a little bit soft. Like I said, you've got that ambient glow from above, which is softening everything anyway. I think it's more important that this is in focus as opposed to the tree in this instance. If there is a mist and fog, that's going to naturally soften the whole scene. So that's completely different. But in this instance, I think it's more important that them ferns are fairly sharp, because they're going to be the first thing I think that your eye is drawn to. Then maybe the path and the tree. So yeah, what I might do now is just wait 20 minutes, half an hour. It's only 8 o'clock, so we've got another hour till an hour and a quarter till sunset, and just see it. If you can see up here, we've got some sort of specular highlights. Obviously, the sky is poking through. Now, I've come up nice and high on my tripod, and pointing down, trying to eliminate as much sky as possible. But I don't know if you can see on the camera, I've got a bit of an issue here where I'm going to start pinching off the top of that tree, and I don't want that to happen. I want a little bit of growing space around this tree. Yeah, I don't want it creeping up, disappearing, because that's not gonna look good as an image. Your eyes are gonna lead up out of the frame. I want a bit of breathing room, but I'm torn between a rock and a hard place, because the more I point up, the more sky I introduce. So obviously, as the sun's going down, everything's softening. Them highlights in the distance are getting less of a problem. They're not as bright, which is helping my scene, helping my sky, but it's not helping my overall scene, because I'm now having to increase my shutter speed because everything is getting dark. I'm having to open up my aperture, which is not giving me my depth of field that I would like, which in turn means I could increase my ISO, but on a Nikon, on the crop sensor camera, don't want to increase my ISO if I can help it. So I'm working that triangle consistently, all the time when I go out. Instances like this test that more than other times. Sometimes you'll go and everything will work out, the atmosphere will be perfect, there'll be no wind, and you can just breeze through your compositions, your shots. In terms of this, all this moves, all of that moves, and I'm trying to eliminate the sky up here by going high and pointing down, which is then in turn causing issues with space above the tree. And the dying light is increasing this moving, and my shutter speed's having to be too slow, sorry. So yeah, it's like a juggling act, but it's fun, it's testing, it's taxing on the brain. It's a good exercise to come out and shoot, even on pretty crappy light days like today. I think it's important to get out and shoot, and just test your skills. It helps you learn your camera more. It forces you to know your camera inside out, which will only help in situations where maybe you're in a bit more of a rush and you need to know what does what and where the buttons are that you need to be sorting out. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the vlog. I hope you enjoyed this slightly shorter vlog, and a little more of a run through of exactly how I've taken this shot and how I go about in my head juggling that exposure triangle, because it's a very basic, it's the basics of photography, but it's something that I think a lot of photographers don't know well enough, and they certainly don't know their cameras well enough. So yeah, I would encourage people to go out, even on crappy days like today, evenings, or even if you're a little bit pushed, just get out and just every minute you spend with your camera is time well spent with your camera, in my opinion. And when it comes to crunch time, it will just be muscle memory rather than how do I do that, because you would have already worked it out. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'm Photoninja. This is the woods, and this is the elusive tree that I will be coming back to for sure, time and time again, because that is how you get better images, by shooting, and shooting. I'll see you next week. Ciao.